monster that they can fear.
Get down!
You discharged your weapon 5 times into the guy.
How's he still alive?
He isn't.
Trick comes back every Halloween.
I've never been a believer. But this is just pure evil.
In a world where podcasts reign supreme, two friends dare to ask, do you even movie? Hosted by filmmaker Henrique Couto and movie aficionado David D. Neuer. Spoiler alert.
Hello, my friends and spookies. Welcome back to another Halloween special episode of Do You Even Movie and Weekly Spooky. I'm, of course, your host, Henrique Couto, here with my good buddy and co-host, Double D, David Denoye.
Greetings.
And we are back with another piece of horror cinema.
Yes.
That features Halloween prominently.
Yes.
But is not Halloween.
It's not Halloween. It is not. No.
Or any of the other 13, 14 Halloween movies.
Let's just say, yeah.
I mean, if you count all remakes and everything.
As somebody who's currently getting ready to finish off the entire series, including 1 through Halloween Ends and Rob Zombie's, there's a lot of Halloween movies.
I thought you just did Halloween Ends.
We just did Halloween Ends, yeah.
Oh, you didn't do them in order?
No.
Oh, so what's left?
No, Zombies. That's
okay.
it.
Yeah, so not in order.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, because I mean, there wasn't really any point to squeeze in Zombies before we get to the David Gordon Green trilogy, because I mean, they're so different from the rest of them.
Well, I mean, the David Gordon Green ones you would want to put right after part 1 then.
Well, no, we watched it exactly as they were released.
Except you put the Rob Zombie ones
because I put those at the end. Yes, but I'm saying we finished out Jamie Lee's timeline. Finished out Jamie Lee's timeline with the entire plus the Jamie Lloyd timeline, and now I saved Rob Zombies for last because I don't really like them that much.
Oh, you could have just said that.
Yeah,
you were just putting them off.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it was.
All I was saying was you were watching them in order, but without Rob Zombies.
Yeah, those are that's fine.
Oh, I mean, okay.
You're talking to somebody that used to love those movies and then rewatching them recently, not so much.
Well, the struggle often is that words have meanings. And I was just trying to understand what you were saying.
I didn't think it was that hard to understand.
I know. You did not think.
I got nothing.
Well, before we get to talking about 2019's Trick. I want to mention, firstly, we just got back from seeing the 50th anniversary showing of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Tobe Hooper's masterpiece.
Second time I think see it in theaters for me, not including the drive-in. So I think that's like 3 times that I've seen it.
Yeah, I've seen it twice in the theater. Once on a 16 millimeter print.
Nice.
And then once, digitally.
Yeah.
And then I've seen it at least once at the drive-in. Might have been twice.
I think Horrorama showed it like 2-3 years ago because I think it was right before Humanoids from the Deep, I want to say. I think that was the closer one year.
Well, I was at Horrorama when they showed Texas Chainsaw Massacre on 16 millimeter, which was in like 2008, maybe?
That sounds right.
Maybe earlier, maybe later.
I would say earlier because I think 2007 was my first year.
Wow.
Yeah. I think 2007 was my first year.
But the 16 millimeter print looked interesting.
I bet.
So, grainy as hell.
Mm-hmm.
And the color was very different from... I'd only ever seen it on VHS at that point.
Yeah.
So it was very, very different. Yeah, this probably would have been 2004. Now that I'm thinking about it, because it was before I had Texas Chainsaw on a properly mastered DVD. They had a DVD out, but it wasn't very lovingly restored.
The first time I ever got it was the Dark Sky 2-disc release, which I found at a flea market, a Dixie flea market, actually.
Yeah, I got it. I think Image put out the first
That sounds
disc.
right. Yeah.
So, and it was fine. But
is that the one that had the Texas Chainsaw with on the saw on it? That was just the saw blade. Was that the Image one?
No, I think that was the first Dark Sky one.
Was that first Dark Sky? Oh, okay.
I think so. The Image one was just the poster.
Oh, okay.
That we'd seen a million times. Yeah. So, because are you talking about the one that had the flap? That had like
there's that one. The one I'm thinking of is just a like silver cover. It has Texas Chainsaw on it, like on top of like the outline of a chainsaw blade.
Yeah, I don't remember that one.
Yeah, I would have to check now.
Well, oh, good. I'll keep people riveted.
Would you stop?
But it's a film that I cannot say enough about seeing on the big screen.
Absolutely.
You notice so many details, and you don't think there are going to be an immense amount of details on Texas Chainsaw Massacre because of the fact that it was shot on 16 millimeter. It's always been known to be very grainy, but then you see it all remastered, restored, and giant, and you realize there is a lot going on in that film.
I never realized how moist that corpse was at the very beginning until seeing it tonight.
Well, I mean, it was actively rotting.
That was so gross seeing the drip off of it.
Yeah, there was one big... Yeah. Well, and Dan Pearl's cinematography in that film is untouchably good. It's impossibly good. So
I think I'm thinking of the Pioneer release. Yeah, I think that's the one I'm thinking of.
No, I don't think Image ever put it. I think Pioneer had it first.
Yeah.
But I think they released it twice at least.
Yeah, they did. They released it once in 2003 and once in 98.
Man, I had the 2003 one. Which did not look fancy.
Yeah, so I had the Dark Sky 2014 2-disc.
Wow.
It was fancy.
I bought that DVD, and then the first Blu-ray I got of it was would that have been the 40th anniversary?
No, wait a minute. I'm wrong. Yeah, mine would have been the 2006, the 2-disc Ultimate Edition. That's what it was. I'm reminiscing. Leave me alone.
Congratulations.
Leave me alone. I'm reminiscing.
Well, all I was trying to say is,
yes,
I also went by my lonesome on Saturday and saw The Substance.
You didn't tell me.
Yes, I did.
When?
I literally told you. Remember, you said you couldn't go because the only show was at 10:10 at night.
Oh, I didn't know you guys went. I never.
I went by myself.
Okay, yeah, I never confirmed. No,
you said that you couldn't do the time.
Yeah, because I was at a secret wedding.
Yeah. So it's not very secret when you keep talking about it.
I mean, it's not a secret now, but it was the invite was that was a very cool thing. I guess gotta say.
I mean, in my world, secret weddings are only between adults and children.
Fucking know that because that's the joke you texted back to me.
Because that's why would you keep it a secret otherwise?
Oh, Jesus.
But my point is, so I went and saw The Substance. The only show was at like 10:20 at night.
Yeah, it was.
And I didn't want to miss it.
Mm-hmm.
So I hauled up over there, and I have to say, the theater was 2/3 full in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
It was pretty fun. There were so many trailers before it that people started laughing when the next trailer started because we could not believe how many there were.
Yeah.
The movie was completely bonkers. The advertising, the trailers do not sell at all how crazy the film is.
I'm dying to see it.
You better hurry. You might miss it.
I'm not going to see it in theaters. There's no way I can catch it.
That's too bad. Yeah, well, because they released like 4 big films this weekend, so it booted most of the indie films out.
It only had one-time showings this week.
Because they had 4 new releases. Yeah. So it's booting them out.
Yeah.
So and every theater I was checking, although down in Fairborn they had 2 shows.
Okay.
But so I went and caught it. I didn't want to miss it, and I had nothing else to do anyway. So I watched it. Strange, interesting movie.
Mm-hmm.
The last 30 minutes is so insane. I started to think the film forgot how to end.
Huh.
It just got more and more insane. And while I felt like at some point the movie kind of left behind the concept of telling a story for insane spectacle.
Yeah.
There was something heartwarming about knowing as I was watching the insane finale that just kept going and going and going, that it was midnight and I was in a theater with a bunch of random people who were like getting grossed out and annoyed.
Yeah.
I was like, all right, this is kind of top of the line experience, middle of the night, bunch of strangers.
That's pretty cool.
And a weird movie. But I will say, my estimation of the final 30 minutes of The Substance was like if Frank Henenlotter and Fede Alvarez were trying to make a Tales from the Crypt episode, but they couldn't decide who was in charge, and they forgot that it had to end.
That's not the first time I've heard that, actually.
Really?
Yeah, people have compared it to a Tales from the Crypt episode.
Oh, okay, that part. I'm more so the Fede Alvarez and Henenlotter.
Yeah.
It's basically a Tales from the Crypt episode without the storytelling, what's the word? Discipline.
Okay.
It definitely lets itself go off in the weeds, but it is wildly fun. I started to get really tired, but of how it just kept going and going and going. But I appreciated the sheer audacity. It gets crazier and crazier.
It's been compared to Society so far from a couple of my friends.
I don't think Society's half as crazy.
Okay.
Well, Society didn't have half as much money either.
Yeah,
they just kept having more effects happen and more insane decisions happen, to the point where you really are kind of like, what is going to be the final image?
Absurdity fatigue?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Also, before the craziness unveiled, I kind of was waiting for a bigger twist about like what the characters were going through and stuff. And we didn't really get that, but I don't think that's really what the film was about.
I get that.
So it sounds like I'm being harsh, but the weakest part was the story.
Yeah.
The strongest part were the performances and the effects. And the other thing, what was probably the most fatiguing about that 30 minutes was it was a nonstop references to films from Basket Case to Tetsuo the Iron Man to Toxic Avenger to, Brain Damage by Henenlotter.
Yeah.
I mean, it was like you would have to give up counting the references in that last 30 minutes.
Okay.
So, but and that I have to applaud them, because going into the realm of here's a thing that brings you youth in some way, it has been done a lot.
Yeah.
When I saw the trailers, I was like, oh, it's Wasp Woman, because that's the concept behind Wasp Woman.
Yeah.
But they definitely take it a direction you would never expect in a million years. I'm very surprised that Demi Moore was on board.
Okay.
Because it's just so crazed. Like, at first I was like, wow, I can't believe, good on Demi Moore for being okay being in a film about getting older, a film about aging out of stardom.
Yeah.
And then by the end, I was like, wow, good on Demi Moore for being okay with that.
Yes.
That what just happened.
Okay.
So, and in the best possible way. It is without a doubt a film to see with a crowd.
Yeah.
It is without a doubt a film that is entirely spectacle driven. If you could catch it in the middle of the night, I would highly recommend it.
Okay.
But The Substance, you're not going to see anything quite like it.
I'm dying to check it out. Unfortunately, like I said, I'm just going to miss it in theaters this time around, but shit happens.
It's okay. It's not like you like movies that much.
No, not at all.
So that's what's been going on in the theater.
So I do have one thing before we get into Trick to add from last week's show.
Oh, yeah?
I found out that the voice of Sarah, the monster in Cobweb, turned out to be somebody that we know of because we're both mad TV lovers, Deborah Wilson.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. She was at the very bottom of the credits when I was looking when I watched it last night.
Oh, well, good.
Yeah.
Deborah Wilson's awesome.
Yeah.
So,
and honestly, when you hear that and associate it with the voice, it's like, oh yeah, that's totally her.
I believe that.
Yeah.
So, well, that is a nice bit of trivia.
Yeah.
So, I guess without further ado, we should jump into 2019's Trick. This is a film that I feel like it didn't slip through the cracks.
No.
It has, like, on Amazon, it has 600 some reviews, which isn't terrible. But I haven't heard people talk about it very much. And we want to mention it is available to watch for free on Roku channel.
Yep.
You can also rent it anywhere you rent movies.
That is correct.
And we highly recommend you do. This is an excellent addition.
A lot of fun.
To your lineup for October.
So we are getting into Trick 2019, 1 hour and 40 minutes. This film is not rated, but does have notations for strong graphic horror violence, language, and some teen partying.
That's horrific. Teen partying.
Teen partying. Our director and one of the writers on the film is Patrick Lussier. He gets his start as a director in 2000 with The Prophecy 3, The Ascent.
Oh, really?
Yes.
All right.
Then he goes on to do Dracula 2000, which he's the writer and director on in 2000.
I must have scraped that from my memory.
Then he also directs Dracula 2, The Ascension in 2003, writer and director on. Followed by Dracula 3 Legacy, which he's writer and director on in 2005.
He did all three of them?
All three of them.
I only saw the first one.
I've not
Dracula
seen
2000 was the first film I saw in the theater as a child and realized that bad movies could be in the theater.
Yeah, can't exist in the theater.
I thought that bad movies were for the shelves of the video store, not the movie theater. Now, of course, I'm like 11 or something. So... But yeah, Dracula 2000, I've dared myself to revisit it.
I kind of want to watch all three of them, to be honest, just to see what they're like.
You never saw the first one?
Oh, no, I saw 2000.
Okay, I was going to say.
I remember Gerard Butler as a vampire.
Oh, man. Too long ago. Wow, I really must have scraped out of my memory any relation to Dracula 2000 from this director.
So then he does White Noise 2, The Light in 2007, My Bloody Valentine remake in 2009, Drive Angry, writer and director on in 2011, does some episodes of the Scream TV series in 2016. Then in 2018, he directs a Into the Dark for Blumhouse, Flesh and Blood.
Which one was that?
Dermot Mulroney as the dad.
Oh, the one that's excellent. That was the first Thanksgiving episode.
Yeah.
That's a really good one.
Yeah.
Really upsetting.
So then he follows that up with Trick in 2019, writer and director on that, the Purge series in 2019, Play Dead in 2022, and Aftermath in 2024. However, he got his start as a editor in 1989 on episodes of MacGyver. Nightmare Cafe in 92.
Oh, well, not many episodes because there were not many episodes.
The Odyssey in 92, Northwood in 92, Highlander series in 93, Heads in 94, Model by Day in 94, New Nightmare in 94.
I love Model by Day.
I've never seen it, but I know about it.
How do you must have heard me talk about it. Okay, yeah. Yeah, Model by Day was one of those, I don't think it was a Corman, but it was of that ilk. And it was Famke Jensen's first feature film.
That's why I know it. Okay.
And it's Model by Day, Hero by night. So there are these supermodels who are getting into costumes and fighting crime at night. It's on my server.
Oh, that I have access to now.
Unfortunately.
New Nightmare in 94, he's the editor on.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Galaxis in 95. Vampire in Brooklyn in 95.
So he was with Craven for a hot minute there. Well, that explains, because Dracula 2000 was produced by Craven in some way.
Doctor Who the movie in 96, D3 The Mighty Ducks in 96, Scream in 96, Mimic in 97, Scream 2 in 97, Halloween H2O in 98, Music of the Heart in 99, Scream 3 in 2000, Dracula 2000 in 2000, My Boss's Daughter in 2003, Cursed in 2005, Red Eye in 2005, White Noise 2 in 2007, The Eye, My Bloody Valentine 2009, Drive Angry in 2011, and Apollo 18 in 2011. He also has a writing credit on Terminator Genesis in 2015.
He probably wrote one of the early drafts or
something. I can see that, yeah. Because I think Genesis, I can't remember if it was Genesis or Dark Fate had 10 drafts.
It was probably Genesis.
Genesis, yeah, I can see that. Moving on down to our other writer, we have Todd Farmer. He gets his start in 2001 as a writer on Jason X, The Messengers in 2007, My Bloody Valentine 2009, Messengers 2, The Scarecrow in 2009, which gets characters and a written by credit on, Drive Angry in 2011, Heavenly Sword 2014, Trick in 2019. He's also an actor in Jason X, My Bloody Valentine, Drive Angry, Cheap Thrills, Compound Fracture, American Muscle, Don't Kill It. Remember that movie? With Dolph Lundgren.
Oh, yeah. Don't Kill It. That was a good one.
And, of course, Trick as well. And then moving down to our cinematographer, we have Amanda Trey's. He gets his start as a gaffer and best boy and camera op in 2004 on Lightning Bug.
So Amanda Trey's is a man?
Man, I think. Oops.
Oh, I mean, it doesn't matter that much. It's just I don't hear Amanda much as a guy's name is all.
Let me check real quick. Now I'm curious. Apologies.
I mean, it probably won't say.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it really matters. I mean, is the name Amanda?
It's Amanda, yeah. Known for Night Watchman, pop star.
It's not going to say it.
Yeah, it's not going to say anything.
Were you hoping for a photo or something?
I don't know. I was just hoping for anything.
Okay.
So yeah, Lightning Bug in 2004, State's Evidence in 2004, War of the Worlds, Homecoming, Noah's Ark in 2005, Right at Your Door 2006, Splinter, Dark Ride, Drive-Thru in 2007, Borderland.
Man. Drive-Thru. All right.
Yeah, and Borderland. I mean, they did some after dark films on this list. So Dark Ride, Drive-Thru, Borderland, He Was a Quiet Man, Hack in 2007. Remember that movie?
Oh, yeah.
Suspension 2008, Little Hercules Hercules, All Alone, The Hot Wives of Las Vegas, Neighbors 2, Popstar, Never Stop, Never Stopping, The Night Watchman, Wet Hot American Summer 10 years later, Tim and Eric's Bedtime Stories, and Murderville most recently in 2022. Does the first DP in 2011 with Eating Out Drama Camp. Chrome Scald, Laid to Rest 2 in 2011. Eating Out the Open Weekend in 2011. All Superheroes Must Die 2011. Holy Ghost People 2013, Eat With Me 2014, Anguish, Pocket Listing, Gravy, A Beginner's Guide to Snuff, The Night Watchman in 2017, Armstrong, Ordinary Lovers, Bootstrapped, Into the Dark, Shoots Flesh and Blood, and Treehouse in 2019. Trick in 2019, The Royal in 2022, All Rise, and High Potential in 2024.
And I want to point out, this is Amanda Trace,
yep.
a woman. You gaslit me a little. I was starting to think Amanda was a man's name. I don't know why. Maybe because man is in the
Amanda.
But I guess the real question is, David, why do you think women can't operate cameras?
That was not what I said at all.
But Amanda Trace has an incredible career.
Yeah.
A lot of interesting B movies. The Eating Out series is actually a gay movie series that has been a huge hit. It was on Netflix and then it was on Amazon Prime. I think that they've been a big hit on Tubi now.
Yeah.
So those are films I'd heard about quite a bit for being really, really good.
Yeah. Moving on down to our IMDb synopsis, we have a no-nonsense detective tries to track down a mass murderer named Trick who is terrorizing a small town. My synopsis,
gets to the point.
A mass killer who only goes by the name of Trick reappears every Halloween to wreak havoc on a small town.
I feel like The Office, they're the same picture.
The same thing.
I mean, they both nail it. Yeah.
Moving down to our cast, we have Omar Epps, who plays Detective Mike Denver. He gets his start in 1991 on ABC After School Specials, Juice in 92, Here and Now in 92, Street Justice, Daybreak, The Program, Major League 2 in 94, High Learning in 95, Don't Be a Menace to South Central While Drinking Juice in the Hood in 96, ER in 96, Scream 2, The Mod Squad, Breakfast of Champions, The Wood in 99, In Too Deep in 99, Love and Basketball, Brother, Dracula 2000, Perfume, Big Trouble, Conviction, Against the Ropes, Alfie, House, Almost Christmas, Traffic in 2018. Remember that movie that we saw in theaters?
Oh, yeah.
That was a good flick.
Yeah. Well, I know him mostly from being on House.
Yeah, House, absolutely. Shooter in 2018, Trick 2019, This Is Us, Fatal Affair, The Devil You Know, and then most recently, The Deliverance in 2024. Have you heard about that movie at all?
That's the Netflix movie,
Possession
right?
movie.
It's
Glenn Close.
Yeah, but who's the guy who directed that? Really famous, but for not doing horror movies.
Oh,
I can't think of his name.
Oh.
Lee Daniels.
That actually, I think you are right. I think that does sound familiar.
No, I can't remember. Of course, I'm getting the other Deliverance.
It is directed by Lee Daniels here,
yeah,
correct?
Okay, yeah. Lee Daniels is an incredible filmmaker.
Yeah, because Lee Daniels, the Butler, an Oscar contender.
Yeah. I haven't had a chance to watch it, but I've heard very mixed things. Mostly positive, but some
I've seen the infamous scene with Glenn Close.
I don't even know about that.
You don't even know about that? Where she basically says something along the lines of, she says it to the wife in regards of something about her nappy pussy. Is
spoiler alert.
That's not a spoiler.
I'm just trying to help.
Moving on down, we have Tom Atkins, who plays Talbot in the film. He gets his start in 1963 on The Doctors, The Detective in 68, Where's Papa, Get Christy Love, Harry O, The Rookies, Hawaii Five-0 in 75, Special Delivery in 76, Serpico TV series in 76, The Rockford Files, Beretta, Tarantulas, The Deadly Cargo in 1977.
That's what's up.
Power TV series in 1980, Does the Fog in 1980, The Ninth Configuration, Escape from New York, Lou Grant, MASH, Quincy M.E., Creepshow in 82, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch in 82, St. Elsewhere in 83, TJ Hooker, The New Kids, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, Blind Justice, Night of the Creeps, Lethal Weapon, The Equalizer, Maniac Cop, Dead Man Out, Two Evil Eyes, Shades of Grey, Bob Roberts, Striking Distance in 93, Walker, Texas Rangers, Xena, Homicide, Life on the Street, Bruiser, Out of the Black, Oz, Law & Order, My Bloody Valentine, Trapped, Drive Angry, Judy's Dead, Trick, City on a Hill, and most recently the Creepshow TV series in 2023.
I mean, he's pretty much horror royalty at this point.
One of my favorite Tom Atkins moments is he delivers a stand down, god damn it, in My Bloody Valentine that just has that guttural Tom Atkins anger tone to it that I love.
I am disappointed that he was not in an episode of Dark Justice.
That is pretty crazy.
Or
Falcon Crest.
Or Falcon Crest.
Yeah.
Honestly, a little disturbed by that.
Well,
maybe an error on IMDb's part.
If you want to know something interesting that I found out, our next candidate is Jamie Kennedy, who plays Dr. Steven in the film.
Ah, yes, Jamie Kennedy.
He gets his start in 1989 as a bit credit in Skin Deep, the John Ritter film.
Oh, yes, with the glow-in-the-dark condom
That
scene.
is correct, yes. And probably a future episode on the show.
I mean, that's a fun one.
VR Troopers in 94, Unhappily Ever After in 95, Romeo and Juliet in 96, Scream in 96, As Good as It Gets, Scream 2, Enemy of the State, Bowfinger, Three Kings, Boiler Room in 2000, Scream 3 in 2000, Bait, Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, Jamie Kennedy Experiment in 2002.
Of course.
Malibu's Most Wanted in 2003.
I like that movie a lot.
I've never been an apologist for that movie. Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle 2004. Son of the Mask in 2005.
Yes, the one true Mask film.
Kicking It Old School 2007. Extreme Movie, Entourage, CSI, Tremors 5 Bloodlines in 2015.
Of course.
Lucifer 2017. Tremors 6 Cold Day in Hell in 2018. Trick in 2019. And then a vampire film he had come out last year that I haven't seen called Don't Suck. But I love that title.
I mean, it makes sense.
Pretty great. So Trick, as Enrique said, is currently available on the Roku channel, and you also can get a cheap Blu-ray from RJE Entertainment? RLJE Entertainment. Yep, thank you. And I cannot recommend the Blu-ray enough in regards to just the fact of the movie on it, but there's also some bonus content on it, and honestly, the transfer looks pretty good too.
No, it looked great.
So first time watching, this was for both of us because we watched this for the first time together.
Well, but there's a debate. Because you seem to, at least at first, I
thought I had pre-ordered it at first, but I think you're right.
Yeah, I really think that
I think we rented it.
Maybe in 2019 we rented it brand new on Amazon Prime.
Yeah,
because I really feel like I remember you saying, "Hey, I heard about this" in a text or something.
Yeah,
and then I looked it up and was like, "Hey, it's right here. We could check it out."
Yeah.
So, but I remember we kicked back and watched it in an October time.
Yep.
And I really think it was 2019. I don't think we saw it a year later.
No, I don't think so.
And I just remember being surprised by the level of violence.
Yeah.
It's an extremely violent movie.
Yes, it is.
Lots of blood, lots of slashing, lots of action. But to me, that wasn't what stood out the most. Mm-hmm. Because in some ways that's you kind of expect it, although I think it delivered more than you might whatever.
Absolutely.
But more so, the big turn toward the end is what really made it memorable to me.
Absolutely.
And what made me, whenever you would say like, what about Trick? I would go, oh yeah, I like Trick. Trick was really good. Well, that, and of course, it's Halloween as hell.
Oh, yeah.
It's got an immense amount of Halloween decor, kids trick-or-treating, a haunted maze.
I think we see 5 different Halloweens altogether.
Something like that.
Yeah.
So it ticks the boxes of having a Halloween-y atmosphere to get you in the mindset.
Yeah.
Lots of blood and gore to keep you kind of entertained. Some pretty good dialogue here and there. Some really cheesy dialogue here and there.
That too.
And an ending that I thought worked.
Yeah. I still think it does, yeah.
So what do you remember about us watching it
I just remember,
time?
I mean, we were blown away by the opening scene, which we'll get to here in a second, because, I mean, the movie starts and then just doesn't stop.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then I also remember just being really impressed overall with the use of the set, like the set pieces that we get. It's not like we just like go there and they're not really used much. Like a lot of action takes place at these set pieces that they set up.
I mean, usually action does take place on sets.
I mean, yeah, there is that. But I'm more so just like, it seemed like there was a lot of use of the space.
Well, I think that maybe what you mean is that you hate women because of what you said. No, I just wanted to throw a joke in. No, I think I know what you mean, though. I think what you mean is they chose interesting set pieces that fed what was going on.
Yeah.
Like the barge and the maze and the movie theater and the hospital.
And spoilers, how it all ties back together.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah. But I think maybe that's more what you mean is that the locations, the locales really play into what's happening. Whether, like I said, the barge is a really cool location that we'll get to in a little bit. The hospital's a great location.
Yeah.
The parking garage is a great location. And that haunted maze and movie theater, that's a really fun group of scenes.
Yeah.
So I agree. I think the set pieces are really well thought out. And they have a lot to do with what the movie has to do with.
Absolutely. So you ready to get into it?
Why the hell not?
So we open with a definition of what the word trick means. And they highlight 2 things on this definition, that it is usually a maniacal play by somebody. That it is essentially a trick.
That's called a circular definition.
Yeah, it is.
A trick is when you are tricked.
It is. So then
I thought tricks were for kids.
Tricks are for kids.
But that's just me.
So then we see a Halloween atmosphere as we're panning through a town. We're seeing a bunch of decoration, kids out trick-or-treating, and then we cut to a Halloween party, and we find out that it is actually 2015 in Benton, New York, and we're at a high school Halloween party with some kids.
Yes. A high school-aged Halloween party, because we're not at a high school. We're at a house party.
Yeah. And we see a bunch of kids playing Spin the Bottle, except it's a different version of Spin the Bottle because they're spinning a knife.
See, when I was a kid on Halloween, we would spin a giant candy corn because we are not psychos.
Fair enough.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we see that it's Trick's turn, and we meet Patrick Weaver, Trick, who is wearing a really creepy-ass pumpkin mask.
Yeah, a very off-putting and unsettling mask, which becomes more so in a moment.
It does indeed, because it's his turn. He's watched one of the girls that he likes kiss a guy, and so he goes to spin the knife, and it lands on one of the local guys at the party. And they're like, all right, man, yeah, go ahead and kiss him, and making fun of him and everything. So Trick goes to grab the knife to spin again, and they're like, no, you can't do that. So then he turns his mask around, and now his mask has an entirely different
A more of a jack-o'-lantern skull rather than just an evil jack-o'-lantern.
Yeah. And then that's when he grabs the knife and just goes to town on this party. He starts stabbing, slicing, and dicing everyone that he can come in contact with.
Yeah, I mean, he's just wanton abandoned.
Yeah, and there is no warning to this. We just get into this right away.
No, we just jump right in.
Yeah.
I think that's within about a minute 30.
Yeah, if you blink, you're probably going to miss about 3 kids getting stabbed within the first couple seconds.
No, it happens so fast. It's honestly very realistic in that way because things like that just unfold quickly.
So naturally, all the kids at the party start freaking out. We also meet Cheryl, who is trying to stop this from happening, and Troy is another kid that's there, and Troy and Cheryl both try to gang up on Trick, but it doesn't work out. That's when Troy gets an upper hand on him, kind of throws him back, and we see Cheryl go and grab something, and then suddenly we see that Trick's been stabbed with a fire poker.
Yes, impaled.
Yes,
by a fire poker.
Yeah, so he is unmasked now, and he just stares blankly at us, and that's when we also get the title credits for Trick. So we come back, and we are in a hospital, and we meet Detective Mike Denver, played by Omar Epps, and we meet the sheriff as well, and she's holding the mask, basically explaining to Mike that this is what we have, this is what happened. 5 kids have been killed. And that's when Detective Denver is like, well, why is he still wearing his makeup? Because that is one thing. He is chained in the bed, and he's still wearing his makeup.
Yeah, underneath his mask, he had some black and orange makeup that also shaped a creepy jack-o'-lantern on his face. And yeah, he's sitting in bed. It's very off-putting.
Yeah.
As he's still wearing the Halloween makeup.
So they go in to see Trick, and the detective begins to question him, trying to find out, what made him lose it. And Omar Epps in this part, he's trying to talk to the kid. He's like, did they make fun of you? Did something happen? Like, what made you snap like this? And Trick is just looking forward, not giving him the time of day.
Yeah, Omar Epps at this point is playing this as straight as humanly possible. He's just a small-town cop trying to figure out why something shocking happened to the community. And, spoiler, that does not last long.
It does not.
He doesn't get the opportunity to be just a small-town cop much longer after this.
And we should mention, too, that the doctor, played by Jimmy Kennedy, is also in the room, and he reminds Omar Epps' character that, even though Trick did just commit a lot of crimes, he still has rights.
That's true.
Because didn't you look up the death penalty for New York?
Oh, yeah. That was one thing, was Omar Epps' character kept saying, he was talking to another cop, and he was like the death penalty for him or whatever, and he tells him look, you're going to be put away for life or worse. So I was like, I'm pretty sure no, death penalty was abolished in New York State in 2004.
Yeah.
So
it's kind of an empty threat at that point.
Probably. Let's go with empty threat and not no research in the writing.
I mean, there is that too, yes. So that's when we see that the detective is still uneasy by Trick, and it doesn't last long, as Henrique said, because Trick suddenly breaks out of his cuffs and he just starts slicing a cop's throat.
Yeah,
and his face.
It appears he somehow picked his cuffs. Because his hands are completely free, and he is back to slashing.
So he pursues him down the hallway, and that's when we see that Trick also cuts up 2 more people in the hallway, and they come to the end where Trick has now oh my God, I can't talk, disguised himself in Dr. Scrubs.
Yes, he's doing the old sneak out.
He's trying to sneak out, and he gets into one of the rooms, and that's when he gets caught up with Cheryl. He's got a knife to Cheryl's neck. Cheryl headbutts him, and that's when the sheriff and the Detective Denver put 5 shots each into him, sending him out of a window.
Yeah, and when he falls out the window, they don't, for lack of a better term, they don't sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
He just falls, hits the ground, doesn't bounce,
No.
he sticks a little.
Yeah.
And it's so violent that it made me chuckle a little bit.
Yeah.
Because he hits the ground so hard, you're just like, oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Ooh. Oh.
So they run down, and naturally, Trick is gone.
Of course he is.
There is no body there, and that's when they start following a trail of blood. The sheriff does, and she finds that he has jumped into the water at this point, and she says, there's probably nothing to worry about between his blood loss, the temperature of the water. He's going to die of hypothermia, so, I'll send my men out, but I don't think there's really anything. Trick Weaver is dead. In
October in upstate New York, being in the water would be a really bad idea.
Yeah. So the sheriff begins to interview students and staff at the school, and they all say that Trick was so smart that he wouldn't get into trouble. He actually made the teachers feel incompetent, and also he didn't use any social media, and he skipped photo day. So there's no pictures of this kid. There's no social media record. And for all of what the teachers and the students have said, that he is super smart, and they did not expect this from him ever.
Yeah, he's definitely comes off as an enigma.
Yeah. So there's no recorded media of Trick except his fall from the window out of the hospital, but that's the only video they have. They have nothing of him coming in. They have nothing of him going out, just the fall, and then the video's completely gone.
Yeah. And that's where we start to wonder, is Trick some kind of superhuman, supernatural killing machine? Because it seems like no matter how you trap him, he gets away without you even realizing it half the time.
Yeah.
And it's almost like he's a force of nature built to kill some more. And that's one of the things that I like and dislike in the movie.
Okay.
In a way, it sometimes annoyed me how it seemed like it was always too easy for Trick to get away, live again. But
as we get into it,
the payoff makes it all make sense.
So Cheryl and Troy give their description to sketch artists via Detective Denver's request, and that's when he looks at these sketches because they've all kind of given different descriptions.
Yes.
And he's looking at 5 different sketches, and he says, this guy could literally be anybody. So Cheryl questions about his parents, what have they thought, have you talked to them? And that's when the detective and the sheriff drive to his address, which turns out to be a barge.
Yes, and for those who don't know, barge is a kind of boat.
A boat, yes. So they are at this dockyard where this barge is, and that's when they realize that they literally have nothing on Trick at this point. So the sheriff tries to convince him that Trick is dead, and the detective says, show me a body and I'll believe it. But until then, we have to keep back on this. And she's like, well, as much as you feel that way, I have to pull my men back off this. There's nothing more that we can do at this point.
Yeah, so they're going to lean into Trick is dead.
Trick is dead. So then we cut to 2016, so we're 1 year later, and we're at a high school dance, and a boy and a girl are leaving the dance. They're coming down the steps, and there's a guy standing in their way who looks an awful lot like Trick.
How could you be so sure?
I think it might be the painted face and the knife that's being spun again.
Sounds like profiling to me.
Could be profiling, but then again, he does get up and quickly dispatches both of them.
Okay, maybe it was him.
Yeah,
okay,
he attacks these teens pretty quickly, and then even a teacher enters, walks past a dead body, mind you, or a dying body, I guess you could say. And he's like, oh, you kids, and then walks into Trick stabbing another student.
Well, it is Halloween, and traditionally public school teachers are drunk.
Yeah, that is true. This is true.
Yes.
So then the teacher obviously gets it. So then we fast forward a little bit, and we find out that there's 6 dead, 3 injured from this outing of Trick. And the detective is calling the sheriff now from Riverton, New York, and it's been another year later, and there's been another striking at Hudson Village, and Trick has now struck again, leaving about, I think they said 3 or 4 more bodies.
And this is becoming, a pattern.
Yeah.
Of and of course, their attitude is like, it can't be him.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a copycat. But of course, we, the audience, see it is clearly Trick.
Clearly him, yeah.
It's not some other person using the MO necessarily.
Yeah. So we also find out now that Trick also has followers and fans that are taking an online presence for him, doing their face exactly like he does, and they're stating that he is coming back this Halloween.
Well, I mean, so far, so good.
So far, so good.
Good if you don't live in that town, I guess.
So now it's 2018. And Detective Denver is now warning 2 other detectives in Shady Creek, New York, that he will most likely strike close on the river. He's been following his path, and he says that he's due to strike anywhere along this riverbank. The detectives are skeptical because all of the cases of Trick so far have collected DNA evidence. None of the DNA evidence is ever matched. So the results from the mask have not matched, and between him and the sheriff, he was shot 10 times, so they're really not believing that Trick is still alive, which I can't really say.
Well, I mean, falling like that after being shot like that and then ending up in a river like that, there's a lot of ifs.
There's a lot of ifs. So they question if he thought about a copycat killer, and he says that he's skeptical of it. One of the detectives goes in to use the bathroom, and what do you know? He's ambushed by Trick.
How do you like that?
Who then sends a picture of the Trick mask to the other detective's cell phone from the detective's phone.
You said detective a lot there, but I understand it.
So that's when the detective is like, oh shit, something's going on. So she goes to the bathroom, looks out a window, and that's when we see that the one detective is now tied to the back of this pole, except he's not just tied to the back of the pole. There is a wire around his neck. Yeah,
a sharp metal wire is holding him by the throat against a pole.
Basically a garrote once they get the weight on it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
So that's when Detective Denver notices that the wire is hooked to a bunch of cinder blocks that are in a net, and he's trying to push it up, and like hopefully the weight doesn't come on it. That's when Trick pops out and just jumps right on that thing, pulls it down, and severs that guy's head and the detective's fingers that were trying to get it off of him.
Yeah, she had her fingers between the guy's neck and the wire, and they cut off like it's an infomercial, like a slice-o-matic over there.
So Detective Denver goes to pursue Trick, leaving the other detective alone, and that's when Trick sneaks up and stabs her. So now she's in her car injured, and the detective goes back to her, and that's when he notices Trick at the bar once more, leaves her again. Trick comes back and finishes the job, and now that detective's also dead. So that's 2 detectives.
And the dispatching is getting really gruesome.
Yeah.
Stabs her through her jaw up into her mouth.
Yeah.
Just immense amount of stabbing and blood pouring everywhere, and that decapitation was pretty freaking gruesome.
Gnarly. And I also love that I didn't notice this last time we watched it, but he puts the Halloween mask back on the body even when the stump's gone.
Yeah.
I didn't notice that. That's so creepy.
I mean, it's good to have hobbies.
You know. So it's another year now, and we see that Cheryl arrives at Talbot's diner. Talbot is played, of course, by the great Tom Atkins, and he is complaining to her about his stolen barn door because he's had this barn door for years that all the kids have signed. Of course, one name had to be removed from it. Can't imagine whose that was.
I couldn't either. It's probably Bobby McPrescott. He's just kind of a lech.
So he says he doesn't understand who would take the door, and that's when Cheryl also says that, everybody signed that, and he makes the comment, yeah, I did have to remove one name, and he doesn't say anything. So that's when she also goes to talk to her friend Nikki about the upcoming Halloween maze at Talbot's event, and also notices that Detective Denver is there, and he says it's just Mike now because the FBI has let him go.
Yeah.
He also apologizes for her father because we do find out that Cheryl's father recently had an accident that some suspect may not have been an accident.
Yeah, they're suspecting that he may have jumped while on the job, and now it's a workers' comp thing. And the scenes with her and her dad, he's clearly suffering from brain damage, and she's trying her best to nurse him to be well, is so heartbreaking.
Very.
Especially in a movie like this, which is kind of played for fun. Very sad.
Yeah. So he was forced to retirement by the FBI, and she's commenting on the fact that he is still obsessed with Trick Weaver because as he's sitting at the table, he's got a bunch of pictures of Trick. He's got the crime scene photos and everything and going through them. And she's like, if you don't stop this, he's going to end you even if he doesn't do it. You're going to be driven crazy.
He'll end you one way or the other.
Yeah. And we also forgot to mention that at the last scene with the 2 detectives, there was also a bartender that made a comment about murder pornography in her bar because he's been taking these photos with wherever he goes to show other detectives.
Right.
So that's when she states that she'll miss him and tells him to take care of himself, or he tells her to take care, and she says, you take care of yourself. And that's when we see the sheriff has been called to a crime scene with another body, and this time Denver with a bloody jack-o'-lantern has been written on the wall above the body.
That could be anyone.
Could be
Denver,
anybody.
Or even the city of Denver.
It could be.
But it's most certainly about the cop who's after him.
Yeah, so she calls Mike out to see it, and that's when we see that Cheryl and her dad are going through flashcards. We also see Dr. Steve come back in, who tells Cheryl that the insurance company is refusing to pay for his surgeries as they suspect that it wasn't an accident, so they're going to have to figure out a way to pay for the treatment if he's actually going to go through with it.
Well, he's actually really nice. He says that the hospital knows he didn't do it on purpose, and he said that they'll be happy to carry this until the insurance company comes to its senses. So it's actually surprisingly caring. Like Jamie Kennedy's character is very much a outgoing doctor.
He absolutely
He's trying very hard to help.
So while she's talking to the doctor, we also see Trick's face appear on the TV and start taunting the father while he lays in bed. And naturally, he's just freaking out. He's trying to get their attention, but he has limited movement. And by the time he does get her attention, Trick is now off the TV.
Yeah, and he can barely speak either.
Which, I do want to know how they did that. They don't, we'll get to it at the end, but that's not really explained, the supernatural element on that side of things.
Why would that be? Why is a television showing something supernatural?
Because the TV's not on.
You don't know that.
It does not look like it's on when he comes on.
All I'm saying is, you're the ending reveals that this is
all
different.
Yes.
Yeah. As if we're not spoiling the whole movie already.
Yeah.
But I think it makes perfect sense when you consider all the things that are going on.
The fact that, we'll get to it. I actually just thought of something. So yeah. So the next day is Halloween. So we are on Halloween now, and Mike is going through his phone. He finds a message that's falsely been sent to Deputy Green, telling her to meet him at the old barge, aka Trick's address. So his phone has now had a message sent out of it that he did not send.
Yeah, and I'm sure nothing could go wrong over there. Anyhow.
No. So we see Deputy Green go out to the old barge, and naturally by this point, we've also seen that Trick appeared by Detective Denver's car. So he's chased him through a cemetery at this point, loses track of him, calls the sheriff, and is like, hey, somebody sent a text to my phone. It was Trick. You got to get somebody out there to make sure that the deputy's okay. So the deputy rolls up, and she's looking around. She goes into the barge area and finds Trick shrine?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and as soon as she walks through the door, she does not notice a tripwire that sends a boat anchor into her stomach.
Yes, it basically, it's standard weighted trap.
Yeah.
It swings down, stabs into her stomach, and appears to hurt quite a bit.
Yeah. By this point, the sheriff has arrived, and she goes to pull her away. So she's trying to pull her away. Trick's in pursuit of them, so she gets a couple shots off at him, gets her deputy into the car, and that's when we see Trick goes over to a crane and starts operating it, swinging something that looks like a tombstone, because it is a tombstone that he swings through the front windshield, smashing the deputy's head.
Well, it rips it off.
Yeah, rips it off.
Yeah, and the deputy pushes her friend out of the car and out of the way as it's coming toward. But that's another really brutal, shocking moment.
Yeah. So later at the scene, one of the cops, who's Slater, loudly states that he thinks Denver is behind this, and the sheriff is quick to tell him to shut up and do his job. Mike joins her a little later on, and she tells him that the gravestone that was used was for Agent Christina Mendez, who was one of the agents murdered at the bar last year.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yikes. Yeah, so things are getting pretty complicated.
Yeah.
And also deeply planned.
So that's when the sheriff decides that they're going to need a place to find where they can control things so that when Trick comes, they'll be ready. So we cut to a bar where we find Troy and his friends toasting the death of Trick Weaver. They also start to toast Troy because he was the guy, of course, that stabbed him with the fire poker. And that's when they also see a news report of the latest homicide, and Troy tries to reassure his friends that Trick is dead, but his friends really aren't believing it.
Huh. Wonder why.
So he says, let's hit Talbot's Halloween maze, and so they go ahead and roll out. Mike and the sheriff are discussing the case, and the sheriff takes him to Cheryl's old house, which she assures him is safe because the department put a security system in it, so any window or door that opens, she knows that whatever is going to go on in this house. Except when she opens the house, Trick has been here.
Oh, yeah. There are jack-o'-lanterns all over, which are oddly rigged to turn on. So I guess they have light bulbs in them. But there's just a whole shrine of Halloween creepiness.
Yeah.
And mostly it's a big blaring sign of I've been here. I'll go where I want.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
And the reason that he's been there is because they find Talbot's old barn door that they've been looking for, which Trick's name has been re-added to.
Damn
right. It was burned away, and now it's re-added to in bold letters.
Of course.
And also, moving the barn door away, they find a tunnel, so he dug into the fucking house.
Well, and that's where it starts to get extra weird and creepy.
Yeah.
Because it's becoming very apparent that Trick is methodical and all about planning, which plays into what people had said about him being extremely intelligent.
Yeah.
And also the fact that he snapped the day he did may have been a plan as well.
Yeah.
Snapping at a Halloween party where all those people would be in close quarters with him when they wouldn't consider it weird for him to have a mask or a knife. It all starts to make you think.
Yeah. So they find that he's dug into the house, and so they go back outside to find that the SUV that they arrived in has also been stolen.
Yeah, which, you know, like you'd think a cop car,
yeah,
you know, a cop SUV would be a little harder to steal, but hey, whatever.
So Talbot is speaking to one of the police, which is Deputy Reddick, and he states that he's got things under control, but she is welcome to check out back of the maze because that's where the people get really scared and that's where the freak out could possibly happen. We also see that Nick and Cheryl have brought Nikki's little brother and sister to the maze, and that's when we also see that Troy is also going to Talbot's Halloween haunted house, as he said earlier, but he goes in and only buys one ticket. He showed up with his friends. He goes inside. He buys one ticket, and Mr. Talbot, Tom Atkins, is not buying his shit. I mean, he's going along with it for the time being. He's like, oh man, I'm so happy you're here. I'm so happy you grew up. Even makes a comment about a high school student. He's like, I graduated like 4 years ago, dude.
He's wearing his letter jacket still.
Yeah. So that's when Troy sarcastically gets by him, and that's when Talbot also follows him into the theater and sees that Troy is sneaking through the front of the theater and up the stairs.
Yes, and kids, we here at Do You Even Movie do not approve of sneaking into films. The film industry is a delicate thing, especially your local theater.
Yeah.
They need your support. So pay for your ticket and also buy some overpriced popcorn.
Yes.
Because frankly, if you don't come bitching to me when you have no theater to go to at all, like how Dave killed Family Video.
I did not kill Family Video.
How many rentals?
6.
Wow. Like, you mean a weekend?
6 total.
Yeah, you killed them. All right, continue.
So Deputy Reddick radios the sheriff to let her know the location. She also catches sight of Trick outside the maze and then in the maze, so she pursues him before the sheriff loses contact with her. That's when Troy gets caught by Talbot with sneaking his friends in, and Talbot confronts them holding a shotgun because he's like, all right, you boys are either going to make a really nice donation or I'm going to call the sheriff and you all can be fucking prosecuted.
Yeah, I know. It's great. You just hold them up with a shotgun and then they all go for their wallets.
So that's when in the maze, we see Nikki and Cheryl taking the kids through as various things are jumping out and scaring them. The kids are having a good time though. Trick also appears, killing one of the haunters that recently scared them and assuming the disguise.
Well, if ever there's a place for a killer to hide, it's in a haunted maze.
And naturally, he chooses a very creepy clown mask that looks a lot like Killer Clown's, but a little more refined.
I think it doesn't have the big headed shape of it or anything. It's just a creepy clown mask to me.
Look at Killer Clowns.
I mean, it doesn't have the big rounded edges or anything.
Who asked you?
I mean, nobody. That's fair.
So, in the theater, Troy and his friends leave their buddy as Mike and the sheriff arrive at Talbot's, telling him that they're going to take the back, and he says that he'll grab a shotgun to help him. Greg also notices the clown now has a different outfit. Greg is the little brother of Nikki, and he also notices that he has a knife now, which looks a lot like Trick's knife, because Nikki's like, oh, no, it's just another clown. Or no, it's Cheryl. Cheryl's like, no, it's just a clown. He's scary. So she goes over to him, telling him to back off, and doesn't realize that it's Trick, and that's when Greg pulls her away because Trick goes to slice at her and they take off running.
And Trick's knife is a very specific, very square-handled knife with the words Trick scratched into it.
So Trick reappears in front of her and Cheryl runs into Nikki, telling her that Trick is here. They make it to an exit, but Trick kills another haunter right in front of them because one thing I forgot to mention is the kids get scared by this guy with a chainsaw in the Halloween maze. So he's the guy that's blocking their exit, and you think for a second, oh God, it's Trick now, except it's not. The haunter rises up and he's doing his thing, and that's when Trick hops onto his back and stabs him through the head multiple times.
Yeah, very, very bloody, very violent death for that poor haunt actor.
Yeah, so the kids and Cheryl and Nikki go running. Mike and the sheriff discover Reddick's body, so Reddick is dead now, and she calls for backup right as Mike comes face-to-face with Trick. He chases after him into the maze. A haunter startles him till he realizes that it's not Trick, and that's when he warns everyone to get out. So Slater joins Sheriff on the roof, and that's when the door mysteriously opens, but no one comes out, so she goes in. Back in the maze, Nikki is attacked by Trick as Mike fires a shot into him, though it's Trick runs off, and that's when there's some blood that sprays on the prop, and Denver goes, oh, he can bleed, he's human after all.
Well, We'll see. He bled after he got shot 10 friggin' times.
That is true.
We'll see.
So upstairs at Talbot's party, Talbot and the sheriff come across each other and almost shoot each other, but that's when she realizes that it's not him. And that's when he also thinks that Trick Weaver is in the estate or in the building. So he states that let's go find that son of a bitch. Mike bandages Nikki's arm. Troy and his buds wander into the maze as Cheryl tries to warn them that Trick is there. But of course, Troy is not listening. So that's when the sheriff tells Talbot to shut down the movie while Mike goes to get the kids into the car and Nikki to the hospital. Sheriff tells Mike to kill him this time, and Talbot goes upstairs, comes across Trick, tries to get one shot off him, but ends up getting stabbed brutally in front of the projection screen.
I was really hoping that Atkins would know how to use that shotgun and give Trick a little what for, but he missed. He missed.
So the sheriff then comes face to face with Trick, fights him as Mike shows up, and Trick charges out as Slater and another deputy arrive. So once again, Trick has gotten away now, and the sheriff has been stabbed just a little bit as well.
Just a little stabbing.
Just a little stabby stab.
That's a treat.
Nothing compared to what Mike ends this movie with. My God.
No, jeez, yeah.
So Mike suspects that he's returned for Troy, so they go back into the maze, and that's when we find that Troy is mocking one of the dead Haunter's bodies, the chainsaw guy that got brutally stabbed through the head.
I mean, why not?
And Mike and the sheriff come in, alerting him of Trick's presence again, and Troy questions, why him? And they remind him that he stabbed him 4 years ago, and that's when Troy confesses that it wasn't him. Dan and the other guys tried to help him get Trick off, but actually, who stabbed Trick was Cheryl. And she forgot because she was dealing with some serious trauma.
Well, I guess. No, but and that was established earlier on.
Yeah.
Because when a friend went to grab her butt as a joke, a female friend, she grabbed her and like twisted her arm around and stuff. So she's been studying self-defense training and things like that because she's clearly got some real trauma, some real PTSD from the whole ordeal.
Yeah, and Troy even adds a little cherry on top to it because he's like, I didn't stab him. Cheryl did, and he saw her stab him. So he knows that Cheryl stabbed him.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So that's when we see that Cheryl is in the hospital with Nikki. Nikki is getting admitted to a room, and that's when she tells Nikki that she's going to go check on her dad. So she's sitting with her dad, and she has this really sweet scene where she basically apologizes for never standing up to him for him with the mom, I think it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's when the TV comes alive, and it's showing footage now of her father's accident, and that's when we see that Trick actually was on the roof with her father and pushed him off.
Which makes a lot of sense.
So she goes to her father trying to console him, and that's when she pulls back his sheets to reveal that her father is dead. He has been gutted this entire time.
Yeah. This is a part that really made me super sad when I watched it the first time.
So suddenly Trick appears in the room, chases her around a little bit. Mike and the sheriff arrive at the hospital as another person comes out with their throat slashed, and that's when they go after Trick, wandering through the hospital, and that's when they come to a room that has a lot of plastic sheeting up. By this point, Cheryl has disappeared. And now they found a spot where Trick's notes are. That he has a lot of notes in preparation of what he was going to do, basically.
Well, I mean, it's clear that this is not unplanned.
Yeah.
He is not playing by the seat of his pants.
No. So they find Cheryl tied with the Trick mask on. They take the mask off and take her gag off. And that's when Trick suddenly enters behind them, quickly stabs the sheriff and Mike multiple times before setting his sights on Cheryl. He cuts her leg, cuts her free. And that's when Cheryl, hearing Mike state that she was the one who stabbed him, we see a flashback and Cheryl remembers it all.
Yes.
And she stabs the shit out of him.
Yeah, no, she went full on crazed on him.
So that's when suddenly both the sheriff and Mike state that it's their faults and that he should take it out on them. And that's when Denver is like, no, I'm the one that kept you alive. I'm the one that has been chasing you. If there's anybody that needs to die in this case, it's me. So Trick spins the knife as it lands on the sheriff. He charges towards the sheriff and almost gets one hit on her, but that's when Mike stands up, charges at him, and once again, they go through another fucking window.
Yes, they do.
So that's when he lands onto a car on top of Trick, and Trick lands on his own knife. Trick is like, oh, I'm so cold, and then watches Trick pass. Or did he?
Or did he?
So Mike gets off the car. We see another car pull up with a bunch of people, now all dressed in Trick's makeup. They have their faces done up. They're being super silent and creepy. And they also start loading Trick's body into the car.
Yes, and that makes you start to really wonder what the hell is going on.
Yeah.
Because they look like a bunch of cultists.
Yes.
Worshiping Trick. And as they're loading his body into the van, you realize that maybe he wasn't acting alone so much as we thought.
Maybe something bigger was going on, because by this point, Deputy Juan, who is played by Todd Farmer, shows up, and Slater also come to Mike's assistance. But Slater quickly spins around, revealing that his face is painted up also like Trick, and shoots Deputy Juan dead.
And I have a mixed feeling about that reveal.
Same.
It's a really cool reveal, but I also have no idea how it wasn't noticed until he turned his head.
Yeah.
Because he has this very specific, ghoulish jack-o'-lantern face on. But it is a sweet reveal.
But at the same time, it brings up the question of, we just saw him previously at Talbot's, of course, and he was completely fine. So does that mean on the way there, he was just like, gotta get ready for the showdown at the hospital?
Well, David, that's called farding, F-A-R-D-I-N-G. That's applying makeup while driving.
Is it?
I was taught that in driver's ed, believe it or not. Now I wonder if that's a real word. I'm pretty sure it is.
I'm very curious now.
Farding. Yeah. To paint the face with cosmetics. Okay, so not specifically while driving.
Car, yeah.
Yeah, well, the joke that my driver instructor said was, do you know what the #1 cause of women car accidents is?
What?
And he said, farting while driving, and everybody laughed. He was like, not farting.
Yeah.
Farting.
Farting.
So you're welcome. But no, so I'm just saying, you know, why couldn't he why couldn't he become the Joker while he's driving over there? I mean, it could be worse. He could have become the new Crow.
Mike quickly realizes that Trick's following consists of the bartender that was there when the agents were killed, Officer Slater, and others, as the real Trick suddenly comes in, revealed that he has been in a wheelchair, and he states that the people want a monster that they can hate and fear, and we're giving them that monster by continuing the legacy of Trick.
Aw, see, it's all about love.
So Slater comments that if Mike can believe, anyone can, before he stabs him, followed by another guy who tells him that he's dying, but Trick's legacy will live on, as they continue to stab him, and that's when the bartender comments that all the sheep want to believe the lie. They need to, adding that no one needs a reason to be evil, and they stab him as well.
Yeah, it's very Manson-y.
Yeah. So sirens suddenly ring off in the distance as they get in the car and speed off. Mike leaving Mike with Trick, who tells him that they keep doing this because they can, and they're good at it, before he tells them that he needs to go find Cheryl, stabbing him one more time as he goes away. Mike then, as Trick is leaving, pulls on his leg, pulling the chair over to the side, having Trick fall out, as Cheryl arrives asking where Trick is. And this is a frustrating scene because Trick is right fucking there.
Yeah, and I guess in the moment, because he has a beard now.
Yeah.
But in the moment, I was driving me crazy, but then I tried to remember, like, it had been 5 years.
Yeah.
There were no photographs. He was wearing a mask and then makeup during the whole thing. So when you really think about it, his identity, his face was obscured pretty much always.
Yeah.
So for her to not notice in the midst of trying to help the bleeding to death former detective, it works well enough. And also, Trick being in a wheelchair makes him unassuming.
Yep.
You don't assume that he was the one murdering a bunch of people.
Did you see him in the previous scene before he was revealed, by the way?
I didn't notice him, but I'm sure he was there.
He's totally in the hospital a couple times, yeah.
Of course.
So Trick, of course, doesn't respond, and Mike can't answer, so she goes to ask Trick, not realizing that it's him, until she tries to help him back into his chair and just happens to see the poker scar right on his chest.
Yes, and that is a great reveal.
Yeah, so Trick wheels himself back into the hospital, and Mike has now passed out, and that's when we think that Mike has died. So she follows Trick back into the hospital, watches him dispose of the mask and the knife, before following him into the hospital security office, where we start to see him delete footage from the garage.
And that's where we start to realize that while he may be unable to walk and therefore unable to kill most of the people, he's still very much involved in the meticulous nature of getting away with it.
Yeah, and with him having access to the electronics of the hospital, it totally is how the TV could have shown that.
You're welcome.
Yep. So Slater joins the sheriff getting treated by the doc, and that's when Slater tells her that Juan was shot and Mike has been attacked, but as he turns, she sees leftover makeup on his face from his Trick makeup, and that's when Cheryl wipes blood on the glass outside of the hotel security office, trying to get into the office, and Trick actually wheels over to the button and lets her in. So she comes in, lifts up his scar one more time, and confronts him. Trick tries to attack her with a knife, fighting him off before he stabs her in the foot, so now she's crawling and he's crawling outside of the security office.
One of my only complaints, because the finale's very good.
Yeah.
One of my only complaints is when he unlocked the door, I feel like she should have been more apprehensive, like this is a trap. she seemed to kind of ignore the idea that it was a trap. But of course, she was also ready to just whoop his ass.
Yeah.
So,
So she is crawling out of the office. She goes to stand up and then falls onto a table, completely breaking it. But this is in her. This helps her because she grabs one of the broken table legs and just starts beating the shit out of him.
Yeah, she is not putting up with this shit anymore.
So he tries to knife her, but she gets his wrist, sending the knife into his gut, stating, "Fuck you and fuck your friends," before stabbing him deeper once more. Trick touches her face and states, "One of us," before he dies.
You're just like one of us.
You're just like one of us, yeah. So Cheryl confronts Slater in front of the sheriff, basically saying that it wasn't he, it was they.
Ah.
And that Trick is a bunch of people, including Deputy Slater here, who, of course, tries to get a knife into the sheriff, but the sheriff quickly grabs the knife, takes it from, or Cheryl grabs it as well, and they finish him off together.
They just murder the shit out of him.
Right in front of Jamie Kennedy, too.
Right in a hospital room. They just kill the hell out of him.
Jamie Kennedy dressed as a psycho doctor because it threw me off at first, too.
Oh, well, that was, it was a mad doctor.
Mad doctor, yeah.
And like a cheesy one with like the button up and the thing. And I love that because you turned to me and it was so like I wasn't even riffing. I wasn't even picking on you. You just went, why is he dressed like a Cartoon Network mad doctor? And I went, it's Halloween.
It's Halloween.
And you were like, oh, right.
Versus Dark Man Die, where that freaking nurse is dressed as like a BDSM nurse in that office.
Well, that makes sense too.
Is that the Jeff Fahey henchman attire?
I mean, it's supposed to be in the packet you got when you were hired.
There we go. So the next day, we see that Trick's followers are waiting for someone, and they're talking about how they're going to keep it going, and it's going to keep going on. And suddenly, over the hill, somebody is walking towards them in a Trick mask, joins them in the car, takes off the mask to reveal Dr. Steven.
Which is a fine reveal because they really did try to make Jamie Kennedy's character seem likable and caring and kind.
Yeah.
But because he was Jamie Kennedy, we all suspected that he would turn out to be a bad guy. And unfortunately, that's just the curse of casting.
Yeah.
When you like, how many movies have you seen where you were like, oh man, I know that actor, and then they turn out to be the villain?
Yeah.
You're like,
well, it's that classic Family Guy joke where they're doing, I think it's NYPD Blue, and it says like guest star Jimmy Smits, and that's when they look down and they're like,
I guess he's the killer.
Yeah.
I think it was her homicide or something like that, yeah.
So they also show at this point that Jamie was the one who loosened Trick's cuffs in the hospital that caused him to get free for that first time.
Which makes perfect sense.
Also him probably transporting his body away that first time as well.
Absolutely.
So that's when we see them drive off, and that's when he tells them, okay, let's go. And we also see now that the sheriff and Cheryl are joining forces to stop Trick's cult, but they're not alone because Detective Denver did survive. He's on crutches, and he looks like he's in a lot of pain, but he is still here.
It was very much like Ken Faree not being dead at the end of Texas Chainsaw 3.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm pretty sure I saw you die, but I do like you, so I'm happy you're still here.
So that is the end of 2019's Trick.
Well, you left out that they promised to hunt down.
Well, I said they're joining forces.
Well, okay, but I mean, they're saying like they're going to spend.
Oh yeah,
they've got a map. They're going to spend all of their time,
and they're going to recruit
hunting
more people
down the tricksters.
Yeah,
for lack of a better term.
Yeah,
and which I like, but I feel sad because I enjoyed this movie a lot, but it's never getting a sequel.
No, I mean, what would it be called? Or Treat?
Tricked Again.
Trick 3: Season of the Witch.
I mean, well, you already had Atkins in the first one, so I don't know if you can pull that off. But no, I just want to mention it because I do like that whole moment where they're talking about it and they're planning, and then we end. So we end on at least somewhat of an upbeat note and not just a haha, the bad guys got away with it. Because I find that so lazy these days.
I will agree.
So
would you like to know some few notes that I have about this film?
You know, you picked the movie and then you complain that you couldn't find trivia.
I'm not complaining. It's more so it's just that's what's available, unfortunately. Even the bonus feature on the DVD didn't have, or the Blu-ray didn't have much.
Wow.
What?
Cry about it.
Filming took place in Middletown, Beacon, and Warwick, New York, as well as Umbra Sound Stages in Newburgh, New York.
Okay, cool.
The film was released in the United States on October 18th, 2019, and the film earned $48,953 at global box office.
I'm guessing it was playing in maybe like 50 theaters or less. It was probably, I mean, because I never heard about it coming out.
I really don't know if I've ever actually seen an RLJE in theaters, except for Children of the Corn, the newest one, I think is the only one that I've seen.
Well, I mean, there was Late Night with the Devil.
I didn't see that.
Oh, well, I thought you meant you didn't see that they were even out.
Yeah.
There was Arcadian.
Yeah, there's that one. Yeah.
They've actually been doing a lot of that lately.
Limited, yeah.
Where they're trying it out.
Yeah.
So...
Dermot Mulrooney was originally supposed to play Detective Mike Burns, but had to drop out due to scheduling conflicts with Into the Dark.
Oh. Huh. Wait.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was around that time.
Yep. Yeah. So what are your final thoughts on 2019's Trick?
I get a real kick out of it. I think it's a fun movie. I think while it doesn't reinvent the genre or anything like that, and what does, it's super fun. It's very Halloween-y. It's got some twists and turns that keep you interested. So I'll give it a rent it.
Okay.
I mean, I think if you're, I'll give it a rent it.
Yeah.
I think that it's worth a couple of bucks to get into the Halloween spirit. And it's a movie that if you have a bunch of annoying friends who are really jaded pricks, they probably haven't heard of this one, so they'll be thrilled to watch it with you.
Thanks, bud.
I was pointing to David the whole time.
Yes, you were. And
I was worried that Dave didn't understand.
So,
but what about you, Dave?
It's a Reddit for me as well, with a caveat to buy it if you're a slasher film, because I think
if you're a slasher film,
if you're a slasher fan,
if you are a slasher film, then this is the slasher film you should rent.
If you're a slasher fan, this is probably a buy it because the slashing is really good in this. I will go ahead and say that. It's heavy. It is very continuous. I don't really.
That's a way to put it.
Yeah,
okay,
I don't really think it lets up. But overall, like Henrique said, this is another one of those perfect movies to get you in the Halloween spirit. There's a lot of decor. There's a lot of great characters. It keeps you guessing also the entire time of what the fuck is going on.
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, if you're lazy, you'll just assume it's supernatural.
Yeah,
but then the surprise will be even bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I remember when we watched this the first time, that was like the big turnaround. I think that was literally the thing that made me buy it.
I feel like when we were watching it the first time, I was going, "Oh, come on!" Like about how the killer just could not be stopped.
Yeah, actually, you were getting pissed. I do remember that. Actually,
pissed isn't the right word. I wanted to know how. I was like, "Is he a ghost or what?"
I don't know.
That was
you did break a lot of things while watching this.
Well, yeah, but that's because I was listening to Limp Bizkit earlier that day.
So, as we always do in the show with a couple recommendations, I have two this week. First one being 2015's The Funhouse Massacre. 6 of the world's scariest psychopaths escape from a local asylum and proceed to unleash terror on the unsuspecting crowd of a Halloween funhouse whose themed mazes are inspired by their various reigns of terror. I really like this movie. I think it's a lot of fun, and it definitely has the same feel as Trick a little bit, too, with the atmosphere.
A little, I'd say.
The second one I'm going to do is Patrick Lucier's Drive Angry, which is a movie that I hold near and dear to my heart because this movie is absolutely batshit Nick Cage top tier.
Yeah, no, Drive Angry is insane.
Vengeful father escapes from hell and chases after the man who killed his daughter and kidnapped his granddaughter. You have not seen Cage like this before. There's literally a point where he's having sex and also still has a gun battle while he has sex.
Yeah, that checks out.
Yeah, and
it was in 3D.
It was also in 3D and has great Tom Atkins as well.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. What are your recommendations?
Well, I have a recommendation for a film that I felt was kind of came and went, and while it wasn't the greatest film I'd ever seen, I really liked it, which is 2018's Hellfest.
I was thinking about I need to revisit that, I think.
Hellfest was a lot of fun. It was a theatrical film. I think it was probably a bomb.
Yeah, I think it was.
It's available streaming on Peacock right now, but you could also rent it wherever you rent your movies.
Yeah.
Basically, a masked killer turns a horror-themed amusement park into his own personal playground, terrorizing a group of friends while the rest of the patrons believe that it is all part of the show. One of the reasons I liked Hellfest so much, the scope was huge.
Yeah.
It had one of the actresses from the, at the time, just ending
Scream
TV series, which I really liked that initial MTV Scream series a lot.
Yeah.
So it had a lot going for it. Huge scope. The way that they kept people from figuring out what was going on so that it could keep being they could stay at the amusement park and stay at the haunt was really, really fun. And I think it's worth a revisit because I think it was just a blast.
I will say too, no spoilers, but it sticks the landing for that ending too.
Yeah, the ending is very memorable.
So fucking grim. So good.
But yeah, so Hellfest would be my recommendation.
Good recommendation. Do we have any emails this week?
We do, but before we do, I want to assign everybody their homework. I want to make sure everybody understands that next week's show is one of my favorite unknown Halloween movies.
Yeah.
And I mean very unknown.
Yeah.
When I say this title, you're going to think you know what movie I'm talking about, and it's not that one.
No.
We're going to talk about next week a movie that when we discovered it, it was like we had just discovered heroin.
Yeah.
We were just like, hey, I'm assuming that's how people react when they taste heroin.
I mean, I would have so.
But it's 1991's Scary Movie, not the Wayans Brothers comedy.
No, this has John Hawkes.
But a 1991 regional film made in Texas called Scary Movie, the only horror film I've ever seen that is about waiting in line to go to a Halloween haunt.
Yeah.
And it's so accurate. I really enjoyed it, and that's on Tubi, I believe.
Correct, yes.
So,
is it Tubi? Tubi and Plex, I think? Yeah.
You could have,
I sent you the text earlier. What do you want?
Well, I saw it was on Tubi.
Well, it's on Tubi then.
Scary Movie 1991.
Yep.
I really want you guys to check that out so that you can be ready for next week's show. And that all being said, we have a bunch of emails.
Ooh.
So, let's see.
Yeah, Plex, Screenbox, and Tubi.
All right. So first up, we have a message from our buddy Trank.
Awesome.
The subject line is The Last Boy Scout. First of all, loved the episode so much I listened to the podcast and watched it on YouTube. Y'all did a great take on a great movie. You totally read my mind when I came to The Long Kids Kiss Goodnight as a Christmas movie.
Yep.
Hope you cover it. That might come up again.
That may come
in the emails. No, in the emails.
Oh.
Hope you cover it. Once again, thank you. Love you guys. We love you too, Trank. And we want to remind you guys, you can email us at doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com or go to doyouevenmovie.com and get a hold of us. We love hearing your recommendations. And if you make a request around your birthday, and it's not when we're booked crazy
Slated.
like in October and December, we might be able to pull it off. But speaking of which, I have a birthday request here from our good buddy Maurice.
Okay.
Subject is birthday request. As you guys know, or at least you should know, my birthday is on December 20th.
Okay.
I'm a Christmas baby. Also, yes, I got screwed over as a kid without fail every year. Yeah, this is for you both. This is for both, your birthday and Christmas.
My niece is like that.
That's cruel.
December 27th.
That's cruel. I want to make a special birthday request.
Ooh.
More a demand, really.
Okay.
The Christmas action classic,
I knew it.
The Long Kiss Goodnight. Coincidentally, these were back to back.
That's awesome.
It's a Christmas movie to me, damn it. So, Dave, that's going in the calendar.
You got it.
For December, as close to December 20th.
I will literally
as
put
we
it in
can.
the calendar when we close up.
We are going to cover The Long Kiss Goodnight for our Christmas movies. It's funny, we were already considering it.
We already
got
were.
2 requests back to back. But now I have 2 emails, both from our good buddy Wolfdan.
Okay.
The first one is, just curious, what are your guys' thoughts on The Babysitter with Alicia Silverstone? I had such a crush on her, and that film and the crush nearly satisfied my teen urges. So The Babysitter with Alicia Silverstone, I saw on cable.
Oh, I saw it on WGN.
I saw it on
cable.
Cinemax or HBO when it first came out. And I was very young and it felt very perverse.
Yeah.
All I remembered when I watched it as a kid was I was like, oh, so it's a movie about just everybody wants to fuck this babysitter.
Basically.
And it's still that movie. But when I rewatched it as an adult, I realized it's a pretty damn good movie.
Yeah.
But The Crush is a phenomenal. Terrifying thriller. Really, really good. I watched that on a 3rd date.
I would, along with The Crush and The Babysitter, I would also recommend to Wolfdan the one that we watched that Morgan showed us, Lisa. Is that the one where the 2 girls are making the call and they don't realize that the serial killer is in the apartment or oh god damn it. We watched it. It's done by the guy that did Vice Squad, Gary
Shandling. No, Sherman. It's Gary Sherman. Yeah, Gary Sherman.
Yeah, I think it's Lisa. Let me check.
Okay, fine. Dave never prepares for the show anymore. He's gotten really lazy.
How could I prepare for this?
You could have asked. See what I put up with, guys? Well, while he's dealing with that, I want to remind you, send us an email at doyouevenmoviepod@gmail.com. I burped right in the middle of that because that's Dave's fault too.
Lisa.
Okay. Yeah, that was a good film.
Yeah. Remember this?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
That's a good one. 1990 Lisa.
Yeah. And I want to remind you guys as well, if you're listening to us in a podcast form, make sure you leave a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts and Spotify if you haven't already. And if you're watching us on YouTube, please like the page, or like the show, subscribe, and leave a comment.
Yeah.
The comments really help, and we always respond, or at least I do. Dave doesn't really see you guys as people.
Shut up.
So, but a follow-up from Wolfdan came a couple of days later.
Okay.
Subject line, Christmas horror.
Okay.
If you guys haven't already picked out your Christmas lineup, I thought I'd suggest P2. P2 is one of our absolute favorites.
Yeah.
In fact, back in the day when we did that podcast with our buddy Keith, it ended up winning.
Yeah, it did.
So we did a what was that called?
Not the countdown. Tournament.
You're the one who watched sports.
Tournament.
Yeah, we did a tournament. Wes Bentley is the perfect creep in this, and my God, Rachel Nichols. Talk about being typecast. She has been cast in a few movies, including The Amityville Horror, just because she's hot. Fair enough. Fun fact, I was following her on Instagram and noticed I wasn't seeing her in my feed anymore. I went to look her up and couldn't find her at all, so I searched for her within my other profile and found her. She apparently blocked my main profile. I guess I creeped her out. I told you I was born to play a creep. Now, if I could just get my lines right.
Gosh.
So thank you, Wolfdan. I think.
Thanks, Dan.
Well, that's become a crime.
I would like to add that Lisa is currently streaming on Tubi.
Oh, okay.
And the flirtatious teenager with an eye for older men gets more than she bargained for when the handsome stranger she's pursuing turns out to be a serial killer.
You might want to give the year as well so people can find it.
1990.
So Lisa from 1990.
Directed
that is
by
a
Gary
worthwhile
Sherman. Yeah,
but that's extra credit. I implore you. Go to Tubi or Plex or wherever you're comfortable or rent it. Scary Movie 1991. That's next week's show.
Yeah.
And this is one that if you love lost gems, if you love unusual films that could easily become a part of your rotation.
Yeah.
Scary Movie 1991. Maybe I'm overselling it, but I friggin' love this movie. It doesn't feel like Halloween if we don't watch it now.
I mean, we could even give the synopsis right now, but it wouldn't give the movie justice.
Well, I said the truth. It's a movie about waiting in line.
Yeah, but I mean, there's more to that.
Well, obviously, but that was what shocked me the most as I was watching it the second time. Is I was like, holy shit! It's just like real life. You wait in line the whole night.
Yeah. I love that movie's so much fun.
It's a great film. So with that all being said, unless there's anything else you have to say, David,
I think I'm good.
We're going to get out of here. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening. And for those of you over at Weekly Spooky who are listening to this as we're doing a kind of combo show for October, I am so tired. I have recorded so many shows, one every day of October. So you can hear my voice cracking.
Yeah, you can.
So with that all being said, we will holler at you guys next time, and maybe we might even have some thoughts about the new Terrifier by then.
Very possible, yes.
So anyway, from me, Henrique Couto, and Double D David, we will see you
next Tuesday.
Or maybe we won't. No, we will.
That's possible.
Adios.
Later.